Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, Rangers. It's me, Jackie Kashian. Welcome to the Dork Forest. It's 2024. Let's do this. Here's the credits, of course. Mike Ruekberg sang that song at the beginning, and he wrote that song, and he sang it with Sarah Cohen, his wife, and he will sing the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Also, Patrick Brady, still putting this together. Video, audio, all of it. He's amazing. So, and Vilmos doing JackieKashianStore.com. Squarespace is doing the regular Jackie Kashian page, and I'm thinking of moving the Dork Forest and dorkforest.com away from WordPress because it's driving me nuts. But those are the credits. But if you go to JackieKashian.com, you can get Dork Forest merch. You can get my stand-up merch. You can get my stand-up CDs and DVDs, which you'd have to have devices for those. You can also see videos and find out any number of things. I have another podcast called The Jackie and Laurie Show, but the Dork Forest is the flagship. 18th year. We're doing it, you guys. You can go to my Bandcamp or my YouTube for extra content. Please donate, is what I'm saying. It's 2024, and I think we've been in this long enough. Why don't you guys, everybody send me $100? That's what I'd like you to do. You can PayPal me. There's links all over the pages. You can Venmo me at Jackie Kashian. You can find me at a stand-up show and hand me a sweaty wad of 20s. Do something. But I love doing the show. I would love to make some money, is what I'd like to do. In other news, I'm sure there's more things that I should talk about, but I can't think of them. But let's listen to who's going to dork out about something, because that's my favorite part. Thanks for listening, you guys. You're all great. Let's get into the show.
Oh my gosh, I'm sitting in the dark in a place in San Francisco in a hotel room. Welcome to the Dork Forest Rangers. Today's guest, Sarah Hester Ross, comic, musician, sings with the power of the sun. I watched the special, or shall we say I watched clips of it. I don't want to lie. I
appreciate the honesty. I love that.
And my mother-in-law will have it on. She will have it on. Even though, because Lori Kilmartin was like, okay, Sarah Hester Ross is on the show. Let's before I start taking up her hour with what I want to talk about, let me tell you that she's going to have a show on at the Edinburgh Fringe, or Edinburgh, however you people are pronouncing it.
Edinburgh.
The Fringe Fest. Yes, Fringe Fest. It's going to happen. It's over there in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And Sarah Hester Ross will have such a thing. Her Instagram is Sarah Hester Ross. It's in the notes. It's sarahhesterross.com. The name of her special, which is on Apple TV and Amazon Prime from Comedy Dynamics, is called Don't Mess with Redhead. And these are all attainable goals. Get out there, watch them, see the things, learn to sing along.
Yes, please.
That's it. Okay, and now welcome to the show. My mother-in-law's been watching a lot of comedy specials, and weirdly enough, she didn't know about Amazon having them. So, and we don't have Apple TV, but now she is recently, because Lori Kilmartin was like, why haven't you seen mine? And I'm like, well, it's triggering enough that it's constantly comedy going on in my house. But
that's awesome. I love that.
But I'm sure she'll find you, and then and I can also point her in that direction.
Steer her towards it. Yes.
Yes. All the things. So, do you prefer Sarah or Sarah Hester? Who's calling you? What are people doing?
Well, oh my goodness. Ross was my married name. And I had some musical theater IMDb credits under Ross, and so when I got divorced, I just kept it. Hester is my maiden name, so Sarah is fine. But I actually was called Hester from a very young age into adulthood because Sarah was like the number one girl name in the 80s. And I was born mid 80s. I'm an elder millennial myself, and so I had a Sarah in every grade.
Right.
So I was called Hester for a really long time.
Sometimes.
So I love it when people call me Hester. It's nice, but I cringe when people call me Miss Ross, and I'm like, that's like internal trauma, So
I'm going to call you Hester. That's what's going to happen.
Thank you. I love that. Ooh, we're
I'm
getting
on board.
Jackie's. Only friends call me Hester. So Jackie, you are now my friend.
We're friends now.
We're friends
now. A lot
now.
of people don't know. Well, welcome to the Dork Forest, where friends get to talk about the things that they love. And one of the things you love is interesting because I'm fascinated. It's TV shows where we went with. Let's go with the main one that I kind of want to talk about, which is Sex and the City.
Sex and the City, yes.
Right. Sex in the City. We're all doing that. Sex and the City. That seems, I don't know, inclusive. So I've seen a little bit of it. It's Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yes.
It's the four ladies, and they're getting some action. They're supposedly in their 30s and early 40s at the time. And there's a lot of drinking. What is it?
The show opens with her being 32 years old, and she's living in the city, and it's so absurd, Jackie. It's so absurd. Like, you think about it, like, she's 32 years old. She pays $750 for a rent-controlled apartment in Upper Manhattan, and it's like, this is so make-believe. It's like not even funny. But she spends thousands and thousands of dollars on shoes. And it's hilarious. And so you have to, if you haven't watched Sex and the City, first of all, what are you doing? Why? Why not?
Why not? Grain of salt. And grain of salt.
Yes, definitely. But it's one of my yearly routines. I watch Sex in the City every year.
How many seasons are there?
There's 7.
Okay, how many? Does that mean that there are 140 episodes, like 20 episodes a season, or?
No, there's definitely not 20. I think actually in the last season, I think there's only like 8. But I mean, there's still like a lot. It takes me about, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks to watch the whole show over. And again, I have like a rotation of shows that I do this with. Gilmore Girls is actually in my rotation right now. Like, I'm watching it right now for probably the 9th time.
7 seasons of that too, I believe, right? 7 or 8.
Yes. And people, when I tell people this, they're like, how do you do this? I like to watch TV on my phone while I'm getting ready. So I like to watch shows that I've already seen that I don't have to like focus on, but like, things like that. So that's why I rewatch shows that I love so much. But Sex and the City is like one of my top. So
there are 94 episodes of Sex and the City.
That's actually not that much. That's not
That
many.
bad. Yeah, 6 seasons. Yeah, and it last aired in 2004. And there we go. They might be, and then I think there was some sort of reboot or something.
Yes, there's a reboot, and I did try. I tried.
Well,
I'm not a fan of it.
Right.
I don't know what's going on with it.
Well, some things exist in a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially
agreed.
Like $2,000 Jimmy Choo shoes. That feels like very much. I never even heard of a Jimmy Choo shoe until Sex and the City. So
that's fair. Probably I'm probably the same. But I started watching Sex and the City when it was on TV, and I had to like sneak it because my mom didn't let me watch HBO, and rightfully so. I mean, it's quite softcore porn. I mean, it is.
If 100%. I remember correctly. Now, let's see. When did it start? When did it? Do you think it started in the 90s? Is that when
it 1998 started? Yes, it was definitely started in the 90s.
Okay.
And I was young. I was
like 12? Like 10, I mean, it would have been
trying to do the math.
Here's the thing. In 1998,
I was definitely in middle school.
Okay, so you weren't a child. The kid that I babysat for, I don't know why I'm not going to let you talk, but here it is. We're friends.
We're friends, yes.
We're friends. In the late 90s, early 2000s, I did childcare in Los Angeles for two children whose mom was my day job boss. And they were pretty well off. And they also had a different life than I did growing up because I'm an elder Gen X.
Okay.
And the... So young Cole Schuster had HBO in his room. And so if he was being punished and he was sent to his room, he would just sit there, and he was 7 or 8 years old. And he was like, there's boobs. And and I'd be like, I actually don't think this is cool. I don't mean to be a jerk about it, but what is this show? That's how I was introduced to Sex and the City. He was watching it, and he was 8.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a little early. Plus a lot of martinis. He's a jazz musician now.
Oh, how cool!
Yes.
Wait.
So
martinis. He was drinking martinis at 8?
No. He was just watching Sex and the City, and those are the two things I remember. Is that there was a lot of sex, and so there were a lot of loose boobs just out in the world being seen, which is fine. They're just boobs. Who cares?
They are just boobs. They are.
And you're more excited about them if you want to touch them. I have them. I'm unmoved. So yes.
They're sacks of fat. What do you got to do?
Right. I heard somebody used to do a bit about how nobody ever wanted to touch the sacks of fat on her legs.
Yeah.
And she's like, right, those things on my thighs? How come you don't want to get in there?
Maybe if you draw a nipple on it.
Right.
It'll change people's minds. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hearts and minds.
Yeah. I mean, I really did. I started watching it at a young age, and that's, it was bad. Like, it was not bad. It was naughty because I was raised very religious. And so I had to sneak things like Hocus Pocus because I wasn't allowed to watch like witchcraft or anything like that. So Sex and the City was definitely like a no-no, but I loved it. And I would watch it when it was on TV. And there's no argument about it. It's softcore porn. Like, the sex scenes in it are pretty intense at some times.
Are they steamy? Super steamy?
Oh yeah, very steamy, very visual, very and I mean, young
I'm
girl
more interested now
finding
that I've
herself in her body. I'm glad I could help. Could help.
We have HBO.
No,
is it still on HBO?
It is, yes. Well, now it's Max or whatever.
Right.
Whatever. But yeah, so it's still there, and I just finished watching it rewatching it a couple months ago, and it's it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm glad that I'm enticing you.
Yes, now I'm more interested.
You in.
Right. That's how I get my dorkdoms. And so it's Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte. Isn't there 4?
Charlotte and Samantha.
Oh, Samantha. She's the older one, if I remember correctly.
Cynthia. The actress's name is Cynthia. This is where Cynthia Nixon. That's right. This is where you lose me when I dork out. I'm so bad with names and with actor, and it's embarrassing because I know them.
We can just talk
characters.
We can just talk about their characters, and it'll be fine.
But actually, the why I know Cynthia Nixon's name so well is because there's like drama outside of the show with Sarah Jessica Parker and Cynthia Nixon. They despise each other, or Cynthia just doesn't like Sarah Jessica Parker. It's why Cynthia Nixon was not included in the new update. She refused to work with her ever again.
What? Okay.
I know. It's so sad because in the show itself, Cynthia, Samantha and Carrie Bradshaw are like probably, in my opinion, the loveliest friendship.
They have the
because
best of the friends. And Cynthia
I
Nixon
think
plays,
so.
does she play the older blonde or does she play
She
the
does.
redhead?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
because that character, if I remember correctly, was sort of the funniest. She was the smartass and
she is, and
she's the quippiest. Yeah.
and the sex, she's the one that's like more adventurous with sex. And, well, even to this day, like there was a trend going around of younger people watching Sex in the City today, like right now, and
Okay.
them getting on TikTok and being like, this show is terrible. Like the only person that they really connect with is Samantha. And it's because Samantha is more like open minded. She's not super judgmental. She's like, live your life. But the other three are kind of rigid. And, granted, it was the 90s and they're like, they talk about being bisexual in an episode, like a stream of episodes, and they're kind of close-minded about it. And it's just remembering, it's just like, this is like early 2000s, babes. Like people
Right.
were joking about being bisexual as like, oh, Tina Fey has this bit about being bisexual as like, no, you're just selfish.
Right.
Like,
You want all the things. Right.
right.
That was the bit
And
at the time. Yeah.
exactly. And now it's kind of taboo to like be super
Right.
judgmental about that kind of stuff.
We've leapfrogged so many. We've gotten so open minded so
Mm-hmm.
quickly. I
Yep.
mean, I remember trying to watch Will and Grace now,
Oh,
and
I know.
but I will say this about Will and Grace: it did the hard work
Mm-hmm.
of making it palatable
Yep.
to people who didn't know any gay people and didn't want to know any gay people and didn't think gay
Right.
people were real or human or any of that.
Right.
It's just sort of, and it isn't easy to watch Archie Bunker. It's not,
Yeah.
or those shows that have very basic, you shouldn't be a racist, you
Yeah.
shouldn't
Yeah.
be a sex, where you're like, so sad, too bad. Yeah, they may not
Yeah.
hold up, but that doesn't mean that they didn't sort of change the world in a little way. And I think
Well,
that Sex and the City might have done that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Sex and the City did that very much for women just in general to be more outspoken about their sexuality. That it is very surfacey when it comes to fashion and relationships. Not a lot of, and they tried to open the door because this new spinoff,
Right.
and now I can't remember what it's called because it's really bad. But Miranda becomes gay. Miranda is now a lesbian, and I think it was really, the idea was there. I just believe the execution was not great.
Right. And the movies, it sort of
Yeah.
lapped itself, and it
Mhm.
ended up like, because the first 3 seasons, according to what I've heard on the scuttlebutt, were like groundbreaking and really,
Yeah.
really interesting. But
Yeah.
things like Mr. Big,
Mhm.
where in that, now when you look at that character, you're like, what are you, Hester Prynne?
Yeah.
And you're just like, your name's Hester. And
I know. I love that
which,
you did that. That's lovely.
yeah,
That's full
so,
circle right there.
and full circle. And yeah, so let's, there's one other question, and then I kind of want to go with sort of your favorite episodes and stuff. And my main
Okay.
question is that there's that, which one would you be of the 4 that they always do? They do
Yeah.
that question of which of the 4 women do you most relate to?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a
If you're a
quiz.
Carrie or a Charlotte or a Samantha or yeah. And that's, you're asking me, right?
Yes.
I would say that I have to be between Carrie and Samantha. The
Okay.
only reason I say that I am a Carrie is because I I feel I am super annoying. And I feel like Carrie is probably one of the most annoying people on the face of the planet. And she's so fucking annoying. Am I allowed? I'm sorry if
Yeah, please.
okay.
No,
All right, good.
podcast. Fuck it up.
All right, great.
Fuck it up.
She's so incredibly annoying, but like in a very relatable way. Not in the shoe shopping. I'm very Jew when it comes to like spending money, so I can't relate to her on that. But she is just so selfish and so self-indulgent, and it's just like even to the point where there are times where I find myself feeling bad for the men that she's with because she's like, I'm like, bitch, come on.
I did want them to be nicer to the men, and I did want the men, because the men, one of the cool things though is the men are not particularly well fleshed out.
Yeah,
Like
they're
they
not.
tend to be kind of two-dimensional.
Yes.
And
And I think that they almost have to be because it was so quick. Like it very clearly like they are not important. And you could tell when the writers were like showing you multifaceted sides of the men that they were going to be like serious contenders like in their relationships with the women.
okay, right, because they would
Does
give
that
him
make
like
sense?
another, yeah, they'd give him another angle or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of like, oh, that took away the surprise a little bit of that. I'm
Well,
not
I'm sure
sure.
you
I
didn't
felt
notice
that.
it at the time.
Yes, right.
I
Yeah.
mean, but this is 2004 in the 20th viewing of this
Yeah.
of this
Now
program.
now I
Yeah.
see what you're doing. I see you, you crazy
Yes.
writers.
I see the tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you have favorite episodes from
Oh,
some of the
yes.
seasons? Yep.
Yes. Probably my favorite episode is the episode where Miranda is training for the marathon. And I think
Okay.
I pick my favorite episodes from lines that I quote all the time. And
Okay.
I think that's how I do it. But I quote this line literally probably once a day. And I don't know why it stuck with me so fervently, but it's this episode where they talk about eating ass.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right.
And so
Very
we're just,
popular topic of young comics right now. A lot of ass talk.
yeah, well, ass is very big right now. And they
Right.
actually talk about that in the episode. Samantha does this thing where, well, anyway, Miranda is seeing this. I think he's just a runner with her. He's
Okay.
training and they go back to her place and he eats her ass. And she starts talking about it with her friends and she's like, I don't know, am I supposed to like get into this? And Samantha's like, there's something going on with the ass right now. And it's just so it's so fun. It's so
Oh, it's
fucking
so
funny.
introspective. Like
Yes.
she's just goes,
Like
there's something happening.
there's something with men in the ass right now. They're really into it. And I love that because it's very topical, even though it was, I
Right.
think this was actually later. I think this is probably like season 4 or 5. So it's later. Charlotte's married at this point. But anyway, that conversation is just so funny and so I love it. But the
Does she
line that
learn? Does she run? Does she run the marathon in it? I don't know why I need to know that.
she does end up running the marathon, but not in this
Okay.
episode. She's
All
just
right.
training for it.
Okay.
So the line that I quote literally once a day is where she offers the guy a back rub and he's like inching his butt into her face to try to like get her to eat him. And she yells out, I don't want to do that. And that is the line. I don't know why, but I literally quote it every day. And in that tone specifically, like, I don't want to do that. And he's like, well, you could have said something before I had my ass in your face. Anyway, it's the best. I love the episode. There's a part like Charlotte is this like super uptight, prissy girl. And in that conversation, they were like, do you have to reciprocate? And Samantha's like, absolutely not. You do not have to eat. And Charlotte is like, really? Because she eats her husband's ass. And it's so clever and so cute and funny. She's like, what? I'm married. I do everything. And it's just like,
if he needs it, I guess I'm there.
It's so great. Anyway, that's my favorite episode.
That is your favorite episode. That's fascinating. And
I'm not a super like proponent. Like I like for ass, like, do what you got to do. I'm not into kink shaming at all. So it's not necessarily the ass talk, but
it's literally just that episode. It's just funny, and you enjoy.
But it's liberating, like in the sense, if and not to be super like pluggy or whatever. I talk a lot about sex in my and specifically women's issues with sex and like what women deal with in sex. And I think Sex in the City is probably one of my inspirations to be so freely open to talk about it. And to encourage women to talk about it because growing up, it was so taboo. It was so dirty. It was so that's not ladylike. And I just love the idea of getting out of that trauma first and foremost, but also hypocritical. Like men are allowed to talk about sex, men are allowed to talk about their dicks, men are allowed to, and it's like it's okay, but women can't. And at the end of the day, it's all about controlling us. It's all about putting us in a box and not letting us be free and experience what people should be able to experience.
Yes, and I would posit this about sex. It's always embarrassing. If you want to be embarrassed, you can be. Because it's not dignified.
Yeah.
You're having sex.
Yeah.
It's going to be, there's going to be noises, there's going to be positions, there's going to be moisture.
Queefing, there's going to be it. And that's so funny. Like I also love this about Sex and the City is that they talk about the embarrassing moments. They talk about like, I think, I've peed a little during intercourse, but the guy didn't really notice. So I just kept on going. And it's just like those things in like reality can and will be embarrassing, but they're life. It's sex.
Right.
It happens.
And almost it has to be pretty big deal to stop having sex because someone made a noise or something got a little sloppy and you're just like, well, we'll finish it up and then we'll back up. We'll go get towels. It'll be fine. And
I know. Just be prepared. Have towels on the side of your bedside.
Yeah.
And just keep going, babe. Keep going.
Right. Keep going. Have a good time. And if you're not laughing during sex, there's trouble, I think, to some extent, just because it should be fun and funny.
Oh, agreed.
And unless you're somehow role-playing grumpy people, which that's between you and your God.
That could be fun. That could be sexy.
Sure, if that's the sexy times you want to have, you enjoy that. But I am consistently trying to make Andy laugh, and he
me too.
Right back at me. Right?
You have an Andy?
Yeah. Do you have an Andy?
I do have an. Well, I don't call him Andy, but his name is Andrew. But
yeah, there you go.
Like
it's a very popular name. Yes.
Everybody, actually, my ex-husband's name was Andrew as well. So apparently, I have a type.
You have you didn't have to change the monograms.
I know. That worked out perfectly for me.
I hope his last name isn't also Ross. That'd be weird.
It's not. That would be weird. That would be kind of scary, actually. But yeah, I love making Andrew laugh. like especially it like in like sexual things.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a time and a place for it, but like
Yes.
every once in a while, I love that.
Yes. So the thing about the clothing, and there's so much fashion to it.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the show and think, I gotta figure out how to get those clothes?
I wasn't really into fashion when I started watching it. Um and I still probably to this day don't think I understand high fashion as people in high fashion would. I appreciate it. I think it's beautiful. I love the artistic or the artistry of it. But
Sure.
as far as like wanting to spend my money on a one-time dress,
Yeah.
I do that for my shows.
Right. That's costuming, and
Yes.
and that's sometimes you could rent.
Yes. But but I also like to do again plugging my show and my
Right.
comedy special.
By the way, it is
I
Sarah
do a lot
Hester
of
Ross.
I do a lot of costume changes, and I love changing my costume. Like when I see like shows, I was very inspired by people like Bette Midler and Lady Gaga. Like I'm not as like my costumes are not as wild as Gaga's, but the fact that she like changes outfits in her shows, like that's very much I like doing that. And so I have to have tearaway. So high fashion is not really like
Right. I love that you have Tearaway. That
I do.
sounds because there's a comic, Fred Armisen, who
Oh
was on
yeah.
Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
And he when he got Saturday Night Live, we had he's been on an episode of the Dork Forest. Feel free to figure out which episode, Rangers. You got the powers,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
of the Google. But he always said that he was jealous that I got to do the road. And I said, "Oh my gosh, you could totally do the road. You're on Saturday Night Live. It would be fine." And he's like, "Jackie, no one is going to tolerate the costume changes." And
see, that's where I disagree.
but if he had Tearaway,
Yep.
is
I
that what you do
disagree.
during the show? Yeah.
I do. I do costume changes in my shows. It's very and that's very interesting because when I am on the road and I do comedy clubs, I understand that what I'm doing, people are not expecting me. They,
Right.
they're not expecting the music.
There's much more production than regular stand up, than just
100%.
non-interactive, because you're doing, it's almost like it's not burlesque, but I mean, there's so many costumes and so much stuff to it that it has that theatrical vibe that
Yes.
this one with this high. And
Exactly.
I barely move, but it's very different, but it's all stand up, right?
Yeah.
And they've come to see you.
I appreciate that, and I really do. As coming from an actual stand up, I don't call myself a stand up comic.
Oh, interesting. What do you call yourself?
A musical comedian.
Oh, okay. Oh, just sort of another, just a comedian, but with the addendum, just so people. It's not a bad thing to do, because then there is some warning.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like people are coming to a comedy club and they're expecting a stand up comic, and well, it's also because I respect the artistry of stand up comedy. Like, I want other comics to know that I don't think what I am doing is what you are doing, because what you are doing is another level. Like, just the fact
You
of
should
you saying
literally
that.
look in the mirror and picture me saying that to you.
Sure.
Because quite honestly, what you're doing is another level of stand-up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But I always want to like give credit where credit is due. But I'm going into comedy clubs, which
Right.
I don't necessarily think that I belong in comedy clubs, but that's just where I am right now.
This isn't on you. Comedy club audiences need to YouTube Google the name of the comic they're going to see, because then you won't accidentally stumble in and see Nick DiPaolo.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I mean, the thing is you might like Nick DiPaolo, and you'll come in and you're going to see my crystal clutching ass, and that's not going to be for you either. So take a heartbeat and you have a phone and go, I wonder. Yeah.
I kind of wish, and this is new. This comedy clubs for me is new. I've only been doing it for about 2 years. So most of the time I am a theater kid through and through. Grew up doing theater, and when I do my own like one woman shows, it's not in comedy clubs. It's like here in Vegas. I do it in theaters. So I understand but what I would really love it is, and I hope that I'm helping with this a little bit, is opening the box of comedy. Because I do feel like comedy clubs in general and comedy audiences, they want their comedy in like this. And if it's not like this, they're like, we don't like it. But I'm like, there's so many levels to what comedy could be and what it is.
I think that there's comedy gatekeepers like that, or hall monitors, or whatever you want to call them.
Monitors. I like that.
They're kind of nerds. They're dorks for that, and they have a very narrow view of exactly what they think is stand-up comedy. But Maria Bamford, was it John Lovitz who came up to her once at the Improv and said to her, do you consider what you're doing stand-up comedy? And to Maria Bamford. And she said, well, I'm in a stand-up comedy club, so yes. And, but it's sort of like alcoholism. All you have to do is say that you are an alcoholic and you're an alcoholic. I in my opinion, if you think that you're a stand-up comic, you're a stand-up comic. I may not like it. I may love it more than other kinds, but I do think that there is a definite, it's linear. It might even be a globe. I don't know.
Well, that's very, very kind of you, because I know that is not a common denominator amongst stand-up comics.
It can be grumpy and judgy, and there's like, of course, the traditional war between improv and stand-up, but
which is so sad. It's so sad. I love them both, but that's coming from a theater girl. Which if like in the sense of, if I'm entertained by it, I like it. Like, and if I'm not entertained, then I'm like, then it's not for me. It doesn't mean that it's bad. That doesn't mean that it's like this is garbage and this is not but. It's
the negative stuff is coming from inside the house. I mean, it's definitely coming from sort of the straighter, more traditional stand-up comics who are judging more production and other kinds of. I was once watching, and I probably told this story at Rangers, but I'm watching Mime with Maria Bamford in Melbourne, Australia. And it's two Japanese guys doing Mime. And it was so good. And at one point during this show, I leaned over and I said, it's amazing, but what would, like, Hollywood, what would they do with it? And Maria didn't take her eyes off the stage. She just leaned over and said, it's not broken, Jackie. It's just great. Just let it be what it is. And I was so like, lovely. It's the greatest. I mean, it's very sane. It's she talks about how she has the mentals, and it turns out she's the sanest one of us all. So let me say this, Rangers, we are talking with Sarah Hester Ross. It's sarahhesterross.com and at Sarah Hester Ross on Instagram and all the things. She has a new special out called Don't Mess with a Redhead on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. Find it wherever you go. And she's got a Friends show coming up in Edinburgh this summer. And So here's the thing. I don't want to. Is there anything else you want to say about Sex and the City? Because I actually have a clothing related question about the other show.
Absolutely not. I mean, I could talk all day about Sex and the City, but we can move on to my next favorite obsession. So,
which is kind of a comparable show in a way, in the fact that I think it is also from the 90s, right?
yes, it
And
is.
yeah, so it's Gilmore Girls, which
Mm-hmm.
I was obsessed with myself. My brother
Oh,
Scott owns all 6 seasons on DVD.
oh my
And
gosh.
because
Love
all of
it.
my brothers are super gay straight men. And but I tried to rewatch it because it's on the streaming.
Yes, yeah.
And
Well, they actually just took it off Netflix, I like a couple months ago, and now you can only get it by purchasing. I bought it
oh,
years
interesting.
ago. I bought it
I
years
have
ago. So,
right, I have the DVDs myself, so but her clothes were the ones that always made me go, wait, how is she a single mother? And then I found a website in the late 90s that would, and it was a website in the late 1990s where you would type in the name of the TV show and the character, and it would tell you where to get the clothes that they were wearing on the show.
how cool is that?
I know. It was $150 t-shirt that I wanted that she was wearing. And I was like, oh, I guess I can't have that. I have a weird job
Oh,
where I'm an admin assistant.
oh, I guess I can't. Oh, I guess I should not.
But why does she get to? Is what
Yeah.
it also kind of made me mad because I was like, I don't, it doesn't fly. The house is too big.
This
Yeah.
is where we say this is Hollywood make believe. Like you're right.
Yes.
A single mother who like worked as a maid and then all of a sudden like has this huge house and all this land
Yeah.
and like what bitch please. Bitch
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
And how like fervent she was about doing everything herself and not taking anything from her parents like
And
I call
yet,
bullshit.
I kind of call bullshit on it. Yeah. By the way, Gilmore Girls still on Netflix for a hot sec. So if everybody
What?
wants to get into 7 seasons, you knock yourself out.
That's
Yep,
crazy. They must have just put it back on.
they might have because sometimes people get all sad,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
and then
I
yeah,
literally looked at like weeks ago. I looked
right
to
when
see if
you
it
were
was
gonna
on there.
start again. Yes.
Well, again, I had already purchased it, but I like to this is so silly, but I like to watch it on streaming so it shows so they get paid.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, no, that's true. I love a used bookstore, but I also
Yeah.
like to buy a book that I love new again and again and again and give them to
Yeah.
people so that the book people get the money. They're called
Yeah.
authors. I like
They're
the authors
called
to get
authors.
you know, the
Oh, those
authors.
people that write books. You
The
know.
one that wrote the book, they should get another $2 or whatever. So yeah, like I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many copies of the Thursday Murder Club I've purchased for people.
Really? Okay. I love
it's it
that.
There's going to be a TV show on Netflix or a TV movie with Helen Mirren, Pierce
Ooh, I love
Brosnan, Ben
Helen Mirren.
Kingsley, yes, and a fourth very famous character actor from England whose name is escaping. But
Okay.
it's about pensioners who solve murders. Because why wouldn't it be? They're British. Why wouldn't they solve murders? That's all those
Definitely.
people do.
That's
Yes.
what they do. It's what they're made for. Yeah.
That's what the
That's really
monarchy has
cool.
trained them for.
I
Yes.
love that. Artists supporting artists, you know? We got to do it.
I have, yes. So I have something that I've always said from just, oh no, am I going to forget it? I am going to forget it.
Oh no.
It's a line that I use all the time to describe something because they had their own language, Lorelai and her daughter,
Yeah.
uh, whose name I'm escaping. So Gilmore
Rory.
Girls, Rory, that's it.
Yeah.
Where essentially Rory's the adult in that situation, and but I do love that show because it's super well written. Like it's very quippy.
Amy Sherman is one of my favorites. I love her. I've loved her since Mad TV. And they get her writing gets not shat on, but like in a negative way because they're fast talkers, and that's how she writes them. She writes them on
as
purpose.
As opposed to what? The West Wing guy?
I guess I don't know.
That guy's super speedy. Yeah.
She also wrote The Marvelous Miss Maisel. I don't know if you watched that.
Oh, right. No. And I know people who write for it, but yes.
Yeah. Same thing. Really fast talking jokes back and forth. Right. And, she's always been she's the co-creator and writer of it. And I'm just such a fan. The writing is just so fast and funny and quick. And that's one of the things that you have to watch the show over and over again because you'll miss a joke and you'll hear it the next time and you're like, who the fuck are they even talking about? And then you'll look it up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's very, very time, like, it's so crazy.
Right. It's a time capsule of pop references.
100%.
That's right. Yeah. And quite honestly nails them. Because I remember just watching it and going, oh, I don't even know who that is, but I know it's hilarious to the 7 people who just laughed their heads off. And so,
yeah,
which
exactly.
I just admire. Yeah.
I do too. I do too. Yeah. Especially for a popular television show, you think that, you need to broaden your comedy or whatever, or, dilute it or whatever. And she doesn't. She definitely does not.
Pre-streaming, she was writing for herself.
Exactly.
And writing for whoever wanted to watch it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it turns out we did.
which I find very similar to like things like Family Guy and, like I don't know. She was the voice of Lois, but I don't know if she wrote for them as well. Family Guy, but
okay. I did not know that. That's good for her.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, but that's very Family Guy Simpsons-esque, where they wrote what they were laughing at the time.
Right.
And Gilmore Girls did that too, even if if it was so quick. But I think because the storyline was so relatable, mother-daughter issues, that's kind of what got me. Like, it's very relatable for me. The distance between, her childhood and her wanting to raise her daughter. Like, I don't have any kids, but that mother-daughter relationship between Lorelai and her mother is very relatable. Very relatable.
Just a lot of hands-on, a lot of meddling.
Yeah. And it's so funny because today a lot of people are I don't know if this is a common thing that they're like, oh, they're on the side of her mother. Like they see Lorelai's character as ungrateful or annoying, and she is at times. She is.
Sure.
But like people who say that, it's very obvious they don't have a difficult relationship with their mother, because if they did, you would not be saying that, like, at all. And because I do, it's a very complicated love, like one just like
parents
with my mother.
Parents are very challenging. My father, Elliot Kashian, friend of the people, every day's a holiday, every meal's a feast. He is a piece of work.
Yeah.
And to come to grips with the fact that he is just a person trying to raise children.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because my father's very much, there was an old joke about how my father was a lot like radiation when we were children. We never saw him, but he affected all of our lives. And because he sort of, but there's a point in every what I liked about her relationship with her mom is that over the course of the show, and I do think this happens, is she begins to realize that her parents are people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that thing that happens, I think, when you get in your 30s and you have to go, well, I can't be mad at these people forever. I remember my
Yeah.
stepmother saying, how did she put it? She said, if you were born in the rain, that's very sad. If you're 30 years old and you're standing in the rain, get the fuck out of the rain. She's like, you're 30.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's just a point where you have to sort of realize that you're the adult in every situation, including with your parents, who
Yeah.
you're like, well, they're supposed to be the adult. And you're like,
Yeah.
they're just people and they're as flawed as anybody. So,
Yeah.
and they were probably raised by banana heads as well. So
I like the quote that like, remember, this is your parents' first time living too. Like,
oh yeah.
and I love that because they're gonna make mistakes, like, and they're making mistakes because of how they were raised, or not mistakes, but they're doing the best that they think they are doing.
Sometimes the
And
best wasn't very good.
yeah,
Just by
yes,
definition.
right, yes,
Right. And it doesn't
and
mean that they weren't trying. It just means they failed. And we've all failed. And you're just like, well, that was terrible. And it actually hurt my feelings. So if we could not do that again, you don't have to. I mean, some things my father, one of my brothers was as my dad. If he ever regretted anything, if he had any regrets, and my dad goes, no, do you? And my brother Phil, his head almost popped off of him. He was like, you've been married 3 times. You have 6 children. You have no regrets. And my dad's like, what would be the point?
I'm jealous of that delusion. I'm jealous. I wish I was that delusional. I do. Like,
yep.
I mean, I get what he's saying. Like, what's the point of regretting? You can't change it. But when you're talking about a parent and the sense of like, okay, well, maybe regretting affecting your children in a necessarily negative way could be one.
Right. Or you don't have to regret it. How about acknowledge it and apologize? Anything?
Yes.
Anything there. And my dad's like, what do you mean? He and I were at a Goodwill a couple of months ago because I go to visit him pretty regular because he's 87. And he wanted to go to the Goodwill. So we go to the Goodwill and there was a football that was for sale, like 50 cents. And I picked it up and I said, hey, Dad, can we have a quick catch so that I can say that we once played catch? And he was like, what? And I said, catch. And I threw him the football and then he threw it back. And I said, how hard was that? Was that hard?
He did it.
No.
Yes.
No? It's over now.
Gosh. You got, and that's so funny because like, and as a comedian, I know you get this, but like joking about childhood trauma and like the darkness is so helpful. Is so
it is
so healing, and just like, because you're right. What are you gonna do? You can't change it, but acknowledging it and finding the humor in it is something that is really special for comics.
Just acknowledging it and just going, I will watch me reparent myself in front of you. How about that?
Yeah.
And he gets it. He doesn't. He's not completely unaware. I actually don't know if I believe that.
I was about to say, I was like, I don't think my mom gets it. Like, I went no contact with my mom about a year ago for a year.
Okay.
And it was
in an effort to rebuild, regroup.
I think it was an effort to show my seriousness about, if we're going to have a relationship, things need to change. And I am no longer going to fight about it because fighting is pointless, because she's not going to change. And at the end of the day, I don't necessarily need her to change. I just need her to respect me and what I am trying to do and what I believe and what I think, because I am now my own person. I am no longer believing or thinking things just because my mommy and daddy tell me to. which is what we all end up doing. And, this is a hot take, a very hot take, but they talk about like grooming is a big part, is a big conversational piece right now because everybody's obsessed with trans people and everybody's obsessed with drag queens. And it's just like, shut up. But the quote unquote word grooming is very popular. And hot take, I think every child is groomed. Every child is groomed because they are taught by their parents to think what they think and believe what they believe. That is grooming. That's the definition
of grooming.
and children have no say in this. And they also take it in. They believe it. Their parents are gods to them. So why would their gods lie to them? Why would their gods care about them? So why would they lie to them? So I am now realizing and coming out for the past 10 or so plus years that what I was raised, I don't believe and I don't think anymore. And that is very hard for my mother to understand.
Yes, but you've been given other information and you have a brain.
Yes.
And so you have come to a different conclusion.
Yes.
And that's all. I think the grooming of course they've made it into this weird negative thing with children that aren't related to you. And you're like, yes, but Jeff Ross did that with a 15-year-old girl that wasn't related to him. Yes. And then Sexy Times happened. And I know her dad said it was okay, but guess what? When she was 27, she was like, that was weird.
That was weird, right?
Was that weird? That was weird, right? And
because she now has a fully formed brain, and as an adult to be like, hey, I was a child. That was weird.
That's weird. I've personally never thought about. I've never looked at a 16 or 17-year-old young man and thought, I bet I could trick him into touching my bits. But I bet you I could, because I would be the adult in that situation, and I would have all the. Yeah. Right. And his dad might be like, you got some. And that dad is also incorrect, because 10 years from now, that young man's going to be like, that was weird, right?
Yeah.
That was weird. That's not. And it doesn't matter if you're 32 and he's 20 and he's 17. Don't do it. I got a small PSA, you got another hot take. Leave children alone. 15-year-olds should touch other 15-year-olds. Let it all happen there.
It really is just that simple. It's just like, let 15-year-olds touch other 15-year-olds. Like,
right.
Done. Like,
end scene. We weeded off. So do you have a favorite Gilmore Girls episode? Or a couple of those? What are one of your favorites on those? I like it she's going out with the blonde guy. I liked it when when she was dating Supernatural guy, I became a little frustrated. But I liked the tough kid. Jesse?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jess.
I am Team Jess all the way.
I am Team Jess.
I think that he was the best, and I love that they bring him back at the end a little bit, and in the Netflix reboot where they have the 3 seasons of autumn, fall.
I tried to watch that.
Oh, you didn't love it?
I didn't love it. Did you love it?
I loved it. Okay. I did.
Okay.
I did.
Well, and maybe I'll try it again. Okay.
Just because I really love the mother at this age. I loved her after, her dad passed away. And it's because he actually passed.
Right.
Actor.
Oh, yeah.
Herman, yes. Yeah. He actually passed. And so they wrote him passing away in the show. And I really loved seeing her just like become an independent woman.
Yeah.
In her late 60s. I loved that. I loved it because it's another level of like, what women have to go through, because statistically in most marriages, the men die before, and then, again, statistically, women do not remarry. They don't
No,
remarry
when
because they're happy.
they're finally free. My grandmother, my grandfather died in like 1967, 68.
Yeah.
My grandmother died alone, happily
Yeah.
alone in, I believe, the early 90s. I can't remember what year she died. But yeah, she had like 40 years of
Yeah.
her just getting to do whatever the hell she wanted to do.
And I love
Yeah.
it. And that's what I think. I see her. She's this wealthy woman. She kind of dabbles in dating, but they don't really get into it because it's not that important. Her life, like, she is learning to be a person.
Yeah.
And because she was raised in this very rigid, which I love that they kind of touch on, because that's what Lorelai was running from. She didn't
Yeah.
want to be in this rigid life of like wife, kids, like like all this stuff. Like, she didn't want that. And
Right.
so, but her mother didn't think that there was a choice. So she did it. And now she's living a life where she sees the joy that comes from independence, and the money doesn't hurt. Obviously, she's rich, so that helps.
Right. That
But
also that'll take the edges off, the sharp edges
yeah,
off. Yeah.
100%. But like, I just love that ending to her story. And so that's why I like the reboot. I'm not a big Rory fan after uh
No.
in college and on. I
No.
think she's
Yeah, graduated from high school, not fun.
I think she's so fucking annoying, and she's so spoiled, and she's so like, girl, get a fucking life. Like, I just
Right.
ugh.
Right. She's
Anyway.
just when she stopped hanging out with the high school kid, the what was the Korean girl whose parents were
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. They're
And
yeah.
I love those
Um,
actors, the people who played her mom, the woman who played her
yeah.
mom.
Oh shoot, Lane. Lane is her
Lane,
name.
that's it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Lane and her mom were the best. And then that was those first 3 or 4 seasons were my favorite seasons.
They're
And
great.
yeah.
They're great.
I
And but I mean, again, I really like Lorelai and Luke's story too. And
Yeah.
I love that they don't really. I love the Oh, now I can't think of the word, but the non-normal relationship that they end up having.
Oh,
Like,
right,
it's
right. Just
not.
sort of openish. It's kind
Yes,
of
it's not typical, but they're in a relation. They're monogamous, but they're not like. I just love that because it's very non happily ever after kind of vibe for like a popular television show,
right. Again,
And
just went with just a we're gonna live together forever. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And that's why I also like the reboot, because they don't deter from that. They don't
Okay.
they stay steadfast with the Luke and Lorelai vibe, and I also really love that. But because
Eh,
they could have changed. They could have been like, "Oh, now we're married and we're having kids and blah blah blah." But it's like, no, no, no. This is who they are, and we're
yeah,
sticking to the plan.
that's
So,
awesome. And then being introduced to Melissa McCarthy.
oh,
That was my introduction to Melissa McCarthy.
I know.
And
I know.
she is
And
a
she just
delight.
she
Yeah.
just took off. I was loved that she came back a little bit. She had a cameo in the reboot.
Did she? Oh, good.
Just a tiny bit. Because she's a freaking movie star now. Like,
Yeah.
she's like so I get why they probably could not like
The fact
necessarily
that she was
afford
willing to
her.
do it was very nice of her.
I
Thank you
know.
very
I
much,
know.
Melissa McCarthy.
I
That
know.
was very sweet. Yeah. Probably because Amy Palladino, whatever, she
Yeah,
probably
Amy
feels
Sherman
very
Palladino.
Sherman Paladine. That's it.
They probably have like a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Where she's like, you gave me my first big break and thank you very much. And I like how she wrote her where she ends up, falling in love with the produce guy.
Yeah, I love
and
that
then
story.
they have a nice relationship, and it's nice.
I know. It's very cute. Their whole thing. Melissa McCarthy is probably one of my favorite actresses just because I love that she's a big girl and she's a fucking Hollywood star.
Mm-hmm.
She's a starlet and she's stunning and she's beautiful, but she gets so dirty and grimy in her movies and she's very, I love it. I think she's a brilliant comedy actress.
One of my two favorite buddy movies in the whole wide world. I have two favorite buddy movies, and one of them is The Heat.
Oh,
which is Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy. And Melissa McCarthy's physical comedy in that movie, I laughed until I cried.
I know.
I watch that movie twice a year. I cry with laughter as she pulls that guy through the window, and I'm just like, what is happening? This is insane. Yeah.
One of my favorite of hers is when her and Bridesmaids, and the fact that her and her husband, her like real life husband, get to be the two, and they're so gross and disgusting. But it's just
he's in The Heat too.
Is he?
She makes out with him in the bar.
Okay, I have to watch that movie again because I haven't seen it in a while. But I love Sandra Bullock.
I'm almost certain. I have that horrible. We have gone over the hour, of course, because we're talking about something that I also enjoy.
Yeah.
Sarah Hester Ross has a comedy special out, and it is called "Don't Mess with a Redhead." It's on Apple. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's Sarah with an H. Sarah Hester, so 2 H's. Ross.
2 H's, 2 R's. Yeah.
That's it. On the Instagram.com. It'll be in the notes. Go see her at the Fringe Fest. Is that in August?
It is. I'll be there August 2nd through the 18th.
Wow. That's plenty of weeks.
Yeah, I got 11 shows. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. I genuinely appreciate it. You're welcome. And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
Hi, Adal. How was the show?
Well, it was a delight because it was with Sarah Hester Ross, who I don't know in real life, and she calls herself a musical comedian.
A musical comedian.
Right. I think someone's hurt her. Because she could just call herself a comedian because she's just a comic, but she happens to play the piano.
There's no just a comic. Come on.
Right. But she could be, I think, because she's very funny. I watched clips, and there's a new age happening in the Dork Forest where a lot of PR people are like, I have these 1,900 guests who want to be on the Dork Forest. And I'm like,
do they?
Yes. So she's one of the people who had a PR person. So I've never met her, but she lives in Las Vegas.
I think it's a good sign that the PR people want to have their people on your show.
Yeah. I'm on somebody's radar, right?
Yeah. You're on the PR people's radar, which means that at some point you'll get on the radar of the broader world, right?
Right. Though right now it's like Rangers, it's like Green Day in 1992. You're the only ones who know about me. Well played.
That's right. You knew her when.
It's a niche group.
You liked her when she was cool.
Exactly. Now I'm trying desperately to sell out. And
we have limited amount of time. Come on, people. We got to sell out quick.
I have this to say. We talked about Sex and the City, and we talked about Gilmore Girls, which have in common. I love Gilmore Girls. I never watched Sex and the City, but they're both about a lot of sort of fancy clothes happening with people who shouldn't have that much money. And
I think the people in Sex and the City were all fairly rich.
I don't think anyone was Jimmy Choo rich. That's how I found out about Jimmy Choos, which are like $1,000
fancy
footwear.
shoes. Right. Fancy shoes to make your feet look like something besides feet.
What did they look like?
The Jimmy Choos? They're wild. They're crazy.
Are they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They're fantastic shoes to make your feet look like something besides feet.
Interesting. We didn't get into. We talked Sex and the City on the broadscape. We didn't really get into. We got to talk about one of her favorite episodes, but it was mostly just sort of the impact and how she watches all of the episodes every year.
Oh,
it's sort of like I used to read Lord of the Rings every year. It's been a couple of years.
Right. She watches the whole series every year,
and then the whole series of Gilmore Girls every year.
Oh wow!
I think it stops the voices. I think she's doing good work.
A couple a week, maybe, and it would just take her all year to do it.
Well, I think she spends 3 months and then 3 months, and then she has 6 months where she can
watch other things.
New. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's actually pretty cool.
And she might just have them on in the background too.
True.
Might be one of those.
Kind of the way you read Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's a skim.
In the background.
It's a bit of a skim.
Right.
Every time I reread The Lord of the Rings, I get a little bit more of the poetry. It's so beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but her favorite episode, her favorite line was about ass eating ass. What? And yep, they were before the
trend.
Before the trend, it's everywhere now. Every millennial
ass eating now.
Z or whatever the current Ute, they're on board. But there was someone asked, I think it was Samantha, if he eats your ass, do you have to eat his ass back? And she said no. And then the real prim lady who's married was like, really? And then somebody else said, I do. And then she quoted her favorite line from the entire series that she says almost every single day, which is, no, I do not want to. And I might not be doing it right.
That's like her catchphrase?
It is Sarah Hester Ross's catchphrase because
I do not want to.
And I don't think she's always talking about eating ass. I think she's talking about other things.
Anything. It could be anything.
It could be anything that she does not wish to do.
I do not want to.
There you go. But in that tone of voice, so she loves that.
Right. Can she sort of storm into somebody's apartment and no, I do not want to, and everybody turns around and says, "Hi, Esther."
Right. She prefers Hester, by the way, Sarah Hester Ross. She likes. She said that her when she was a kid, she was always called Hester, and she went with Sarah Hester Ross, and so some people call her Sarah, but her friends call her Hester.
I somehow intuited that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I don't know how, but I did, and because it's a great name, honestly.
It is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a great episode, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So I'm going to say the thing I say to everybody, which is, Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?